Welcome, everybody, to Wire2Wire Sports Podcast, episode 131. I am your sweaty host in the attic tonight, Gene Walzak. Mean Gene. Went with the old moniker because I'm in a bad mood. Bad mood. To my upper left corner, look at him. There's no backdrop. He's not even in the same place he's normally at. The guy that runs the ones and twos, College Cottrell.
What's
How you
going
feeling,
on?
Cottrell?
I'm feeling good, man. You know, it's a good time of year. Weather's finally starting to get nice. Got some playoff ball coming. I'm excited, man.
I'm excited also. In my upper right corner, I got Scholastic Shally, Uncle Shally, rocking the CSAs. What's happening, Shal?
Nada. Another tough Phillies loss today. Not real happy about it.
Yeah, no, I wasn't happy about that either. We might even have a special guest, as Mr. Softy might be on the line later. I'll take all the shots I want. I heard this right before I got on the show, and I just want to say something. I'm going to say it out loud. I don't really care. I hope it gets sprayed anywhere. I'm going to say it seriously. I don't get off where dorks who are good at softball feel like that they can have like an attitude as if like they're just good at life. You're not, dude. Relax. I'll play the Mr. Softy music every time I walk by you. Now to tonight's show. We got NBA, NFL, UFC, PGA. By the way, speaking of people I'm pissed off at, Brooks Koepka is on my shit list. I 20-hour bet to win $900. I can win $900. He's up 4 strokes going into Sunday. And would he lose by 4 strokes?
Yeah.
Like 75?
Yep.
Thanks for nothing, Brooksy. You jerk. We got a lot of show to get into this week. NBA playoffs. The play-in games kicked off last night. Let's talk about those. Let's start with those. Play-in games. The Atlanta Hawks dog walked the Miami Heat in Miami last night. Everybody had that. When you see the graphic that the NBA put up, it was like everybody thought the Heat was going to win. This is amazing. The NBA has this on their website. This should be you got to be kidding me. They already have the Heat as the 7th seed. But
no. They don't actually. If you look at it in the black, the 7th seed, they're matched up with the Celtics.
The Hawks.
They got it right
now. Okay, good. But they had it's I guess 7 going in. I don't know why that was there for the
that's weird.
But all things said, you have they're playing the winner of the 9-10.
Yeah, that's all.
It's got to be me. All right, but everyone picked the Heat, and Charles Barkley had another really funny bit last night. He said, I'll put $1 billion on the Heat. And they're like, you don't have $1 billion. He goes, I don't need $1 billion. The Heat aren't going to lose. Well, the Atlanta Hawks were not up for that parade. What's up, Daniel Barry? The Atlanta Hawks were not up for that. Let's talk about that game first. Kyle Lowry was the only Miami Heat player that looked like he showed up last night. He turned back the hands of time, dropping 33 in the play-in game. Jimmy wasn't that good. Tyler wasn't that good. Bam was not good at all.
No.
Your thoughts?
I mean, I think
just watching that game, it's kind of eye-opening. I mean, I will say I didn't see the first quarter. I checked it on the score and I was like, whoa, is this right? Like I was like halfway through the second quarter, I was looking at it. I really didn't think the score was right at first. But you know, the Hawks came out hot, and I think going in, you know, Trae Young said after the game that Quinn Snyder made an emphasis for the Hawks to play a little bit faster. Their half-court game this season hasn't been great, but you saw in that game against the Heat's pretty much known for their defensive abilities, and the Hawks did a great job getting out in transition, and Trae Young was scoring, facilitating. Hawks offense looked great. That Hawks team is that they surprised me. They definitely surprised me that game. That's for sure. I had the Heat too.
I think everybody had the Heat. Shall we?
No, I mean I agree. I mean I had the Heat as well. I think it's don't even let the final score really misguide you or mislead you how tight that game was, because they were down by 20 the majority of the game. They tightened it up a little bit at the third quarter, and the Hawks went on a little bit of run again. Heat were really never in that game. Like you said, I think Kyle Lowry showed up, played well. I find it ironic that Jimmy Butler called everybody out after the game, because he didn't. To agree with Gene, I don't think he played that well. And he said everybody's got to be the opposite, when we play, the winner of the other game tomorrow night. I think he's got to start with himself there. Jimmy Butler did not show up, and we've talked about Jimmy Butler at length on this show for numerous reasons, but that's uncharacteristic for him. He's a gamer, he's a dog, and it was very surprising to see him play so poorly last night. But like Cottrell said, I think Atlanta came out with a really good game plan, get out in transition when they could, and when they were in a half court sets, like he said, shoot fast, play fast, and don't really let Miami grind the game down into more of a defensive game and a half court game. And Atlanta shot well enough and got out of that big lead, and that was kind of a wrap. If there's one thing Miami is not built for, it is not built for coming back from big deficits like that. So kudos to Atlanta. They got a crazy tough matchup now, and now Miami's going to play for their life tomorrow night.
Jimmy Butler was 6 for 19 last night. I don't know who you should be calling out. And the only person I think that played worse than Jimmy Butler that was expected to play well was Bam Adebayo. You want to talk about, listen, Clint Capella doesn't do anything except get rebounds. My man was beast in the boards. 4 points, 21 boards, and shut down Bam all night. It was interesting to see. I've always told you guys that I think Quinn Snyder is one of the top 5 coaches in the NBA. And him being in Atlanta, I feel like that kind of leads to something. I'm not sure how much it's going to lead to in the first round of playoffs, maybe next year. I think Boston's going to run through them like a hot knife through butter, but we'll get into those games in a minute. Let's move over to the West. The Minnesota Timberwolves playing without Jaden McDaniels, playing without Rudy Gobert, basically playing without Anthony Edwards. I don't know what the hell he was doing last night. But Cat looked great, and the Minnesota Timberwolves dominating that game. LeBron made a great play down the stretch to hit a wide-open Pat Beverly. Pat Bev goes up 3. Then AD makes one of the dumbest plays I've ever seen in my life. Guy's doing a fall-away three-pointer in the corner that's got no prayer of going in, and he runs into him.
Boner of the Year award nominee.
It was bad. They went overtime, and the Lakers didn't really have any issues. I think most people thought the Lakers were going to win that game, but judging by where all the money was and by all the people that bet on the game, I think people thought the Lakers were going to blow them out. And I've said this before, and I'll say it again. The Lakers are not that good. They've never been that good. I don't know where people are getting off picking them to win the West. I have a very, very, very strong, bold prediction when we get to the Lakers versus Grizzlies. But I think that the Lakers are just not great. Like, they're not. LeBron's still playing that stand around, watch the play defense. He gets lost constantly. He's just watching the play. I feel like that AD is you don't know which night you're getting out of AD. He's either going to be aggressive one night or he's going to be passive the next. D'Angelo Russell looked terrible last night. Mike Conley gave him the business. Your thoughts on the Lakers versus Minnesota, Cottrell?
I'll say that game in general, I want to just kind of go off with some of the things you said already. Anthony Davis last night, if you didn't just look at the box score, I thought Anthony Davis had a very good first quarter, and then he did come back alive late. I think he ended with 26 and 15, which looks like a great game for him.
Yep.
But if you watch the game, that wasn't the case. He wasn't being dominant. He wasn't, The other thing that I really hate about the Lakers is that they switch way too easy. So late in the game, Anthony Davis was on Cat, and Minnesota run a set to get Austin Reeves switched on them, and they just switch it not hedge it. They wouldn't try to fight back and get back over. But luckily for the Lakers, for whatever reason in that fourth quarter, Cat, I know he was in foul trouble, but Cat was not being aggressive offensively, even with Austin Reeves on him. So I definitely got to say that. I definitely got to say the Lakers. I don't think they're that good either. I definitely, I picked them before the season to win a championship. I still don't see them coming out of the West. I don't care how well they've played after the All-Star break. I don't care that they had the best record in the West. Like, if you watch them play, they're not a good team. They're not. I mean, I think they have the talent because they have AD and Bron and those guys, what they can give you on certain nights. I think they can win games and they can look dominant doing so, but I do not trust that Lakers team at all.
I need to talk to Homer, Peter, Lyra, Fausto. Shannon Sharp doesn't approve of your homerism against the Lakers. I don't think he understands what that word means. Let me help you out with it. Then he's going to post the Lakers have the best record since the trade deadline. We started off horrible, meaning he's 100% Lakers fan this season, but we are thriving now. So do you call thriving needing a late LeBron 3 to beat Utah? Do you call thriving needing overtime to beat Utah? Do you call thriving needing overtime at home versus a Rudy Gobert-less, Jaden McDaniels-less Minnesota Timberwolves team in which Anthony Edwards, I think he was being paid by LA? Do you call thriving knowing that you shot 300 more free throws than any other team in the NBA? Like, your free throw discrepancy from is plus 300, which is number one in the NBA
by a lot.
I need you to understand something real quick. In 2 weeks, you will be a ghost and you will not be talking about the Lakers because they will be home playing golf. You can book it. I said it. You can put something on it if you want. You can say a win is a win, but when you beat the Houston Rockets or the Oklahoma City Thunder or the Orlando Magic, that's not a win. A quality win is a win. And when you get a couple wins, try to get 4 of them versus Memphis, and then we'll talk. Shall we?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think they're playing great by any means. I do think they are playing, noticeably better since the trade deadline, since they got rid of Westbrook. And they've had
Definitely.
AD and LeBron back on the court pretty consistently. It's I think minus AD's horrible decision to get in the game. I mean, that game doesn't go to overtime. Then I mean, they win the game. I do agree a little bit with what he said. Minnesota was playing for their life last night, missing 2 guys. That being said, if you're a Lakers fan, I don't know how you get that excited knowing they're missing 2 starters and 2 good starters at that, and you're struggling to beat them at home. Memphis is a very tough matchup for them. I think there's ways the Lakers can exploit Memphis. Memphis is going to be tough though. I mean, I don't know. They have nobody on the court that is going to cover Ja or anything like that. I don't want to get too far into that, but listen.
Hold on, Peter. You beat Memphis without Ja Morant. Like, slow down. You beat the Suns without Kevin Durant. Like, they're all going to be there. It's the playoffs, Peter. Come on, let's stop the silliness.
Playoff basketball is different, and again, you saw that last night. With the effort that the Timberwolves gave with 2 starters not playing. The difference is the Lakers are going to get that every single night. You have to give them their due. They pulled the game out in overtime. LeBron made a great play to Schroeder in the quarter. It's survive in advance. And, sometimes you do have to look at it that way. I'll give them credit for making it, and getting into the actual bracket. 2 months ago, we were laughing at them and talking about the show how, there was no shot they were going to make the play-in. So, they're playing better. You got to give them their due. We'll see what happens next round. I don't think anybody here is going to pick them, but they are what they are. I mean, LeBron is they're going to go as far as LeBron can carry them, and night in, night out. I don't know how far that is right now.
Because we have a lot of series to get into, I'm not going to waste my time on 8, 9, and 10. I'm just going to be pretty quick here. Each one of you guys, I want you guys to tell me out of 8, 9, and 10 which team you think is coming out on each side. So for the East, it would be the Miami Heat, the Toronto Raptors, and the Chicago Bulls. I'll go first. I think the Bulls beat the Raptors, and then I think the Heat beat the Bulls. So the Heat get the 8th seed. I think they'll figure it out and get it together. So I have the Heat over the Bulls. And for the West, I'm going to go with the New Orleans Pelicans over Oklahoma City and the New Orleans Pelicans over the Minnesota Timberwolves. Cottrell?
I will also second the Pelicans over Oklahoma City, and I also like the Pelicans over the Timberwolves. I think the Raptors win tonight, take out that Bulls team, and I think Miami beats the Raptors to get the 8th seed.
I'm going to agree with Cottrell. I have it going exactly how he does. I think the Pelicans get by OKC. I like the Pelicans then to get by Minnesota. I think it's a very good game, and then I like Miami Heat to beat. I think Toronto pulls out a close game tonight against Chicago at home, and then I think Miami takes care of business tomorrow night.
I think Toronto has like 7 guys that are 6'9". The whole roster.
I mean they do, but the Bulls aren't. I mean, Bulls aren't deep at all. Like after you get past DeMar and Zach. I mean, they got Vucevic too, but I like the Raptors' versatility and Scotty Barnes. They got guys that defend.
I could care less. I think either team's going to lose to the Heat, so I don't care. To me, it's a regular season game. You can call it a playing game all you want, but
I like that Raptors team. I think they just got to get a vet in that locker room, like a vet that's actually good and can give them quality minutes.
Kyle, I would love to see that. Kyle said I could see Toronto's length giving Miami problems. I would love to see that. I don't care if Miami gets eliminated. I don't think, and look, the 76ers were sitting as the 1 or the 2 seed. I would think we'd be talking about a series, but I don't think either one of these Boston or Milwaukee teams lose to any of these play-in teams. I think all of them get ran through. I'll give them a combined 2 wins between both series combined. It could be 4-2 and 4-0, 4-1 and 4-1, whatever. I don't think that the Bucks / Celtics will lose more than 2 games combined in the first round.
I mean, I think the one interesting thing is that if Miami wins and they get the AFC and they go up against Milwaukee, that's a matchup that we've seen in the past. Bam, no one stops Giannis, but Miami's going to put Bam on Giannis. And the familiarity there, I would be interested to see that matchup. I don't think the Bucks have any issues with Miami, but I'd be interested to see how that plays out just because the 2 teams are so familiar with each other from seeing each other in the postseason so much.
Last time they seen each other in the postseason, Milwaukee ran through them like a hot knife through butter.
They did. They did.
And I think Milwaukee is just going to run through them again. I don't think that'll be a problem. Matter of fact, let's start there. The 1 versus the 8. We all have the Miami Heat. So Milwaukee versus Miami. Let me know where you're going first. I'm going the Bucks in 5.
Going Bucks is 5 as well.
I'm also going Bucks in 5.
I don't think it's a series. I really don't. I think Jimmy Butler has a really special game that makes it gets them a win. I think they play them close a couple games, like real down the stretch. I think Milwaukee pulls away, but I don't think they get blown out every game. But I think the Milwaukee Bucks are just too much.
Too deep. Too deep. Miami doesn't have the depth to keep up, and I just think they have too many weapons offensively.
All right, we'll stay in the East. We'll talk about the number 2 seed. The Boston Celtics versus Quinn Snyder and the Atlanta Hawks. I also have the Celtics in 5. I think Atlanta will figure out a way to get game 3 in Atlanta. I think Quinn Snyder will be I think Trae Young will go off one game. I think that Atlanta figures out a way to get 1.
I'm gonna go Boston in 6. I think they steal another game somewhere. Boston's health, they are a little bit banged up. It's the only thing that really concerns me. And you referenced earlier Quinn Snyder. I think Quinn Snyder steals them a game somehow. I think he's a good enough coach to get Atlanta consistently scoring against Boston's defense, and I think they managed to steal 2 games.
I think Boston's a bad matchup for that Atlanta Hawks team. I think they can get boards with Clint. Boston primarily Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown are obviously, they got Robert Williams as well, but Tatum and Brown, I think they rely on them heavy for rebounds. I think the Hawks can dominate them on the glass, but outside of DeAndre Hunter, I don't really like their wings defensively to guard JB or Tatum. So I got Celtics in 5.
Okay, so let's head over to the West. We'll talk about the 1 versus 8 and 2 versus 7, and then we'll get into the big matchups. We're kind of working our way into those big matchups. The Denver Nuggets will be taking on the New Orleans Pelicans based off what we've all predicted. I actually, it sounds crazy. I actually think the Pelicans give them a little bit more trouble than Denver's asking for. I think Denver's a very fraudulent team. I think that they'll be eliminated in the second round, but I think they win the first round. They get a playoff series win. I got the Nuggets in 6 over, and, way closer series than it needs to be.
I really love that. I feel like people forget because the Pelicans really haven't been relevant, but Pelicans made the playoffs last year and they took number 1 seed to 6 last year. So I think you can get that again with that Pelicans team. Sucks that they won't have Zion. Well, I should say they most likely won't have Zion Williamson because he's not feeling like Zion yet. So I tend to agree with you, Gene. I think that this team can give them problems. Brandon Ingram and CJ McCollum, when the problem is they just haven't played together that much. Obviously, BI has been more healthy down the stretch, but I like this Pelicans team. They play well together. I'm gonna go Nuggets in 5, but I would not be surprised at all if this went 6.
I have Nuggets at 6 as well. I don't think they're a fraudulent one per se. I think they're just they're gonna run the matchup issues as further we get with these teams, other teams being healthy, who haven't been healthy all year. But I do agree. I think New Orleans is gritty. They got their experience last year, like both you guys mentioned. This is going to be a situation where the moment is not too big for them. I think they're going to be comfortable playing in the playoffs. The Zion thing is what it is, unfortunately. But I think they've been playing all year without him. They have a bunch of big wins without him. They've learned to play without him. And I think they can be effective against Denver. Denver's a very
Zion's the new Ben Simmons, bro.
I mean, you're closer to it being true than you're not to be true. I'll say that, and I think people need to start really understanding that. But again, I think Denver's a very efficient offensive team. They score easily. They're not imposing defensively, though. I mean, and that's across the board. So, I do think CJ McCollum and Brandon Ingram can, have their way. And, as long as if they stay in games, I definitely think they could steal a game or two. So I think Denver advances. I agree with both of you, though. I think it's a tougher series than, that kind of meets the eye or just looking at it on paper.
I'd like to go third on this next one. Memphis Grizzlies, Los Angeles Lakers.
I'm gonna say I can go first on it because I already have all my made up on this series. I'm taking the Lakers in 7. I don't, like I said before, I don't love this Lakers team. I think they're catching Memphis at the right time. Obviously, Ja had been gone for a little bit of time because of his issues. Right now, the Grizzlies also don't have Steven Adams or Brandon Clark, so they're missing their top 2 bigs on that team. Obviously, Jaren Jackson's still there. Should win Defensive Player of the Year. He's had a really good season, but I think that plus the Lakers, how they're playing right now, I think this is going to be a good series, and I think it goes 7. And the Lakers, I think they find a way to pull it out, and they're going to be more fraudulent to me even at that point because it's like, oh, people are going to think, oh, maybe the Lakers can win it, but I think this is just a matchup situation.
Well, I'm glad you went first because here I was thinking I was going to get a bunch of crap for my prediction, but I feel so much better now. I have Memphis advancing. I do think it's going 7, though, for a couple of the reasons that Cottrell said. Memphis is not going to be at full strength. You have Dylan Brooks, who's also running his mouth. I think Memphis has got a little bit, I don't want to say full of themselves, but we've seen it this year. I think they're feeling themselves a little too much. I think they play great at home. Playing in Memphis, that crowd will be fully behind them. They have not played well over overwhelmingly well on the road this year. I think the Lakers have enough matchups, to go in their way that I think they can win 2 or 3 games and make it very interesting. I do think Memphis advances, though. I think 7th game at home. I think you see a very special game from Ja that night. D'Angelo Russell is not good defensively by any means. I think it's gonna be very interesting. But
so wait, we're talking about the Memphis Grizzlies not being able to match up with the Lakers, right? That's what we're talking about.
Listen, I think they have matchup issues. I think you can, I think if Steven Adams is there, I would like it a lot more.
I don't think Steven Adams matters at all. He's not going to stick AD.
He clogs the lane. He plays good defense, man. I'm not saying he's going to shut AD down and AD is going to score 4 points a game, but you can't tell me that Steven Adams not being there is an advantage for the Lakers.
I'm not. I think it is. I'm not an NBA coach, but if I was an NBA coach, I would play Jaren Jackson at the 5, Brooks, Bane, Ja Morant, and I would run that old team up and down the court. Look, Jaren Jackson, we just said he should win the Defensive Player of the Year, which, by the way, Evan Mobley's probably going to win. He's gotten a lot of real weird votes,
yes.
Which is wrong, but it's okay. Jaren Jackson should be the Defensive Player of the Year. He's going to stick AD. You're going to throw Brooks on LeBron with Bane and Ja Morant not being guarded by anyone. You're talking about Austin Reeves and D'Angelo Russell. Are you out of your mind? The matchup issues on Memphis. Look, I got Memphis in 6, but I'll tell you right now, if they talk a little jive, the Grizzlies will do it in 5. And if they talk a little more, they might sweep them off the floor. I got the Grizzlies, and I got the Grizzlies never in jeopardy in this series. Look, the odds came out in the series, and the Grizzlies are only a -130 series favorite. And I think that's an absolute joke. And I get it. Vegas is trying to capitalize on the Lakers' money and trying to protect themselves because so many teams are all in on this Lakers team. I'm telling you right now, that Lakers team is old. They're not good in transition at all. They do not play good defense, and Memphis is young and going to run. I got Memphis, and I think they'll win the first game by 25 points to lay a statement on LA.
I don't think that this Lakers team isn't that. Obviously Bron is old, but I don't think the Lakers team as a whole is old. D'Lo's under 30. Jared Vanderbilt's under 30. AD has old bones, that's for sure. Like I'll give you that. Austin Reeves is young. Like they have a lot of
Austin Reeves
Troy
is
Brown.
Not a plus defender. D'Angelo Russell's not a plus defender.
He's not old.
They don't run. They don't run well. Malik Beasley is a spot up shooter. He's not a great.
He's not old. He's not old though.
It's fair.
That's all I'm saying.
That Lakers team comes and goes with LeBron James. LeBron James controls and dictates the pace of that team. That Memphis team is going to run him.
I don't disagree. I don't disagree with that at all. I just think now
small that whole series.
Yeah, if you play small though, the problem is if you play small, if Anthony Davis decides to play like the 35 and 10 Anthony Davis, then you got somewhat of a problem on your hands. You just don't know what you're getting with them. If you're getting 20 and 8 or if you're getting 35 and 10, you never know with him, or if he's getting hurt.
I'm gonna tell you something right now. Sunday, I'll be in Mexico sipping a Cuba Libre, watching the Lakers get absolutely trashed. I think that the easiest bet you can look at in the entire playoffs is Memphis game 1. They're only -3.5. Bet $5,000 on them. I'll pull Charles Barkley, put $1 billion on them. Why? I don't have $1 billion, but they're not going to lose.
I agree 110%. Lakers are going to come out flat. They're going to Memphis. Memphis had this time off. Yeah, I think that's a lock. Stone cold lock.
I also think Luke Kennard is going to see a lot of minutes. He's going to be a sniper. He's going to shoot. I like this Memphis team. I don't care about the injuries that they're running across right now. I really don't. And I don't think Steven Adams is much of a loss considering the Lakers are constantly playing AD at the 5 at this point.
No, they are for sure. They are for sure. But I mean, I think it's a size thing. You know, Steven Adams, yeah, defensively, maybe he doesn't add much to that team. I mean, I do think he's a force down low, and as good as Jaren Jackson is, if you have another big down there, I think that clogs the paint just a little bit more.
Yeah.
But I'm looking at it from a rebounding standpoint. You know,
Yeah, but
especially if you're thinking about
team
going
rebound.
small,
They're a very good team rebounding team.
they
Everybody on the
are.
team grabs the ball.
They are, but so are the Lakers. And I think if you go small against that Lakers team, I mean, Vanderbilt, LeBron, AD, if you just got Jaren Jackson out there, like Lakers are going to be prone to getting some more looks on the offensive glass.
Okay, that's interesting. I think we'll get off the Lakers. I don't want to talk about that no more. All right, now we get to the nitty gritty. Actually, I got another walkthrough. 76ers in 5 over the Brooklyn Nets. Mikal Bridges steals 1 because he's Mikal Bridges, and I love him.
Yeah, I mean, it should be 4, but the Sixers will have that one just, punch yourself in the face game because they always do.
Yep.
I agree. Brooklyn will win a game somewhere, and it'll be Sixers in 5. That should not be a competitive series.
I'm not going to lie to you. That series 1,010% should be a sweep. If you look at that series on paper, that should be a sweep. But you still got Doc on the bench, and as long as you got Doc on the bench, I'm gonna go Sixers in 6, just because I think one game the Sixers are just going to shoot bad, and it's just going to be one of those. It is what it is. And then I think there's going to be one game where Doc somehow gets out coached by Jacques Vaughn. The Nets have something going. Doc doesn't make his adjustments, and it's just like, what? Here we go again. But Sixers ultimately won in 6. That next roster is not that good. They got Mikal Bridges. They have Cam Thomas riding the bench for who knows what reason. Every time he gets in the game, he's a walking 40 ball, but he can't find the floor. So I think the Sixers shouldn't struggle in this series at all. Should be a sweep, but I'm going Sixers in 6.
Let's move over to the 3-6 on the other end. Golden State Warriors going to Sacktown. I think championship pedigree is all I need to say here. The Warriors are starting to get healthy. They're getting GP2 back, Andrew Wiggins back, Draymond Green, Steph Curry, Klay Thompson, Jordan Poole. It's just too much. They might take a little bit to get their sea legs underneath them. I could see Sacramento stealing game 1 and scaring a bunch of people, but I got the Warriors ultimately winning this series in 6.
I have the same thing. Again, as bad as Golden State's been on the road this year, and it's been, almost, record-breaking bad. They don't lose at home very often. I don't think Sacramento wins both games at home, and I think as soon as that happens, they're in trouble because I don't think Sacramento wins in Golden State. So, that is going to be that'll be an interesting series just because they're so close geographically. Won't be a lot of travel time for either one of those teams, which will be nice for them, heading into the second round, whoever comes out of it. But Gene hit on the big things for me. This is the first time probably all year, other than the beginning of the year, that Golden State's really been healthy. They're going to have all the role players there. They're getting Andrew Wiggins back. You know what you're going to get out of Steph. I just don't think, and this also being Sacramento's first playoff, appearance in, I don't know, maybe Cottrell's lifetime. I don't know. I think that moment can get away from them a little bit, and I think Golden State takes care of business.
I like Golden State in this series as well, but I think this goes 7. I think the Warriors' woes on the road, I think they will be prevalent here. I get it. Playoff basketball is different. I 100% agree with that, and that's why I think the Warriors still win this series, because they have that experience and they have those vets that have been here before and they've done it before. I think the problem is that I don't think Andrew Wiggins is going to be back until probably that first game at the Chase Center, maybe the second game at the Chase Center. And I think at that point, you may be looking at a Kings team that's up 2-1. Just because I think if Andrew Wiggins doesn't play those first 2 games in Sacramento, I could see the Kings stealing game 1 and just finding a way to win game 2. So with the moving parts going in and out, I trust the Warriors to get it done, but I think this is going to be a long one.
Okay. Let's move on to the 4-5. We'll move on to the 4-5 in the West first. because we're going to save the Cleveland Cavaliers for last for my boy Cottrell. You got the Suns at the Clippers at the Suns, the 5 seed Clippers taking on the Suns. I love the Suns in this series. I think Kevin Durant, Devin Booker, Chris Paul, DeAndre Ayton are just too much for the Clippers. I don't know if Paul George is going to even play in the series.
Doubt it.
And I don't think Kawhi Leonard can do it by himself. I think there's just too much firepower on that Suns team. If I'm the Suns, I think the Suns win the series in 5. If I'm the Suns, I try to be able to get this series over and done with as soon as possible. Any extra games you have to play with all those brittle bodies that are on your team is bad. So let's get out of the series and get out of it healthy. I got the Suns in 5.
I agree. I think the Suns are going to dominate this series. I think this is the sweep. I think this is the 4-0. I don't think Kawhi can get it done. The Suns, when Kevin Durant has been playing, they've looked incredible. The Suns have gotten a lot of rest. They've pretty much been locked into this 4 seed for like the past week. So those guys have gotten a lot of rest. They may come out a little rusty because, they haven't played in over a week. But I think as long as they win game 1, I think this is going to be a sweep.
I don't think it's going to be a sweep. I think LA, I think if Paul George is healthy and playing, I think this is a very grueling series. But that's, not having one superstar on your team that's a big blow for the Clippers. I do agree that Phoenix wins. I think they win in 6. I think LA is good enough to hang around with their depth. And, I do think Kawhi is good enough to steal one, and I think Gene hit on a very big point that it's going to be very critical for Phoenix going forward. They have to try to win these series in shorter games and try to get the rest. They have no depth whatsoever. The starting 5 is incredible. So, if anybody could start to drag them into deep waters, I think that is maybe the Achilles heel of Phoenix, but not in this series, not without Paul George. As much as I like the Clippers and, the way they play, I just don't think they have enough firepower to keep up with a healthy Phoenix. So I'll go Phoenix in 6.
Okay. And then last but certainly not least, Cleveland Cavs make their return to the playoffs. They're playing New York Knickerbockers. This is a very interesting series. I will go third on this one.
I'll kick it off.
Go for
ahead.
it. No, it's your team. Go ahead. I was going to let you go last, but I didn't know G wanted to go last.
So this is an interesting series. The Knicks have dominated the Cavs in the regular season. I think they won the regular season series 3-1. But the interesting part about the series is that Julius Randle is not healthy right now, and I don't think he plays at least the first 2 games. I'd be skeptical if he plays the entire series, honestly. With that being said, if Julius Randle played the whole series and he was healthy, I would hate to say it, but I probably would pick the Knicks in 6. But because he's not playing, I'm going to go Cavs in 6. I think Julius Randle, the way he plays and the impact that he has for that Knicks team, I think it's that important, and that's going to change the dynamic of the series. So I think Cavs, in their return to the playoffs, they win their first round matchup.
I'm agree with you. I think the Cavs win in 6. I think this is a very good series. I think the biggest storyline of it's going to be Julius Randle's health. I agree with you. I don't think he plays the first 2 games in Cleveland. I think he might give it the old, Walt Frazier try at home in the Garden and come out and and then at least try to give it a go. But him not being 100% is a huge blow for the Knicks. I think they're a team that have kind of got back on the right path this year at least, and with some of their young guys, Jalen Brunson's been great for them. It was a huge signing out of Dallas. I like Cleveland's depth though. If Mobley and Jared Allen and Spider and all those guys can stay healthy and keep playing, I like Cleveland to handle business here. I will take Cleveland in 6 games as well.
People forget about playoff Donovan Mitchell.
Yeah.
I remember playoff Donovan Mitchell. My man was going 50-piece or 50 burger with Jamal Murray in one of the best series I've ever seen when Utah played Denver. Playoff Donovan Mitchell. I'm gonna predict this series. Julius Randle doesn't play. The Cavs go up 2-0. Julius Randle comes home game 3. The Knicks tie the series at 2. Cavs go home, win game 5. Knicks go home, win game 6. And in game 7, Donovan Mitchell puts up a 50 burger and sends the Knicks home. I got the Cavs in 7.
I love to hear it. I love to hear it.
Just my opinion. My opinions could be wrong. So what I want to do now before we get off this screen is I kind of want to go through where we have it. I know a lot of us, we don't have to go too long because it's obviously they're all circumstantial picks based off what happens. But I want us to run through how we see our playoff brackets playing out. Just give me the winner, how many games you think they win it in, and then we'll get to our finals prediction pre-playoffs.
Okay. So in my playoff, I got the Nuggets, the Suns, the Warriors, and Lakers advancing to the next round. In that scenario, the Nuggets would play the Suns. I would take the Suns in 6 in that series to go to the Western Conference Finals. And then the Warriors and Lakers, I would take the Warriors in 5 to go to the Western Conference Finals. From that series, I think I'll go to the East.
No, give me that winner and then stop on the finals.
Okay.
You were doing it right. Stop on the finals.
I'll take the Suns. I'll take the Suns over the Warriors in a classic series. I think that goes 7 games. KD gets his get back, I guess you could say, against the Warriors team, and goes to the finals. In the East, I got the Bucks over the Cavs in 6. I have the Celtics over the 76ers in 6. And then I have the Bucks over the Celtics in 6 to go to the finals to set up a matchup of Bucks-Suns.
Give me your winner.
My winner, the Milwaukee Bucks. Milwaukee Bucks in a 7-game series. I think that's another classic series, but I think Giannis gets the best of KD.
Okay. Shally.
I'm going to agree with Cottrell. I think Phoenix steals game 5 in Denver. I'll take the Suns in 6 in that series. I think their starters are just too much for Denver to keep up with. I think the Warriors beat the Lakers. I'll take them in 6 as well. I think that's a good series. Again, I think Steph and company are just too much down the stretch, too much scoring. In the East, I'll go the Bucks over the Cavaliers in 6 as well. 76ers versus the Celtics. I will take the 76ers in 7. I think your soon-to-be crowned MVP JoJo gets a statement win on the Garden floor in Game 7, setting up JoJo versus Giannis in the conference finals. In the West, I will take Golden State in 7 over Phoenix. I think they have enough firepower to keep up, and I actually like Golden State's depth in that series. I think Draymond Green walks off the court and gives KD the big FU, and I think Golden State goes back to the finals. There will be a lot of trash talking in that series. I will be excited to watch that series. Like that will be as soon as softball's over, like run home and turn on the TV type series. That is going to be electric. 76ers versus the Bucks in the Eastern Conference Finals. I want to go with my heart here, but I'm going to go with my head. I think the Bucks win a 7-game series, and I think it's a great series. I think JoJo does everything under the freaking sun to help them win that series. I just think Milwaukee's depth is too much. Their bench is drastically better than the Sixers. I think starting 5 isn't as lopsided as some people would like it to be, but I think some of the guys they have coming off the bench just dwarf anything we're going to throw on the floor. And I sure as hell don't trust Doc to make the adjustments that would probably be made to win that series. So I have the Bucks versus the Warriors in the finals. I will go Bucks in 7.
Okay.
I think Giannis gets another ring, supplants himself as being one of the absolute best players in this generation, stamps it. I think the Warriors come up just a little bit short because I don't think they don't have an answer for Giannis at all.
So Bucks over Warriors, Bucks over Suns. All right, my turn. I'll start in the West. I have the Phoenix Suns rolling through the Denver Nuggets in 5. I have the Golden State Warriors beating the Memphis Grizzlies in 6, setting up the series that we all want to watch. We all want Suns Warriors. Don't lie to yourself. The NBA needs this.
Yep.
I got the Suns in 7 over the Warriors in a hell of a series. Back and forth, just great basketball. Let's go to the East. I got the Bucks over the Cavs in 5. I got the Celtics over the Sixers in 5, maybe 4.
He's
want to lie to you?
He's
They're
reverse
better than
psychology.
No.
No.
I don't want
They're
you
better
lying.
than we are. They play without Robert Williams and Jaylen Brown, and the 76ers went ballistic. JoJo had 54 points to win the game by 2 points. The Celtics are the better basketball team. I don't want to get into it. I hate it. I hate Boston. With that being said, I'll take Boston over Milwaukee in 6 to set up a Suns versus Celtics finals. And give me the Suns in 6 over Boston to be your NBA champions. Give me Suns over Celtics. That is my prediction, and I'm sticking to it.
I actually messed mine up. I would actually have Golden State over Memphis in 6. I think I said the Lakers by accident.
Yeah, you're fine. Same thing. All right. Well, that's our NBA playoffs. We'll tune into their playing games after the show, after Wire to Wire. We're going to move on. We got some edge rushers list, and I'm going to edge rush this screen. I'm going to edge rush this air conditioner. I'm sweating like a pig. Let's get into the edge rushers. Bill, you're leading us off.
All right. Number 1, I'm going with, depending on who you talk to, some people still believe he's the best player in the draft. We've all been in love with him on this show for the last 2 years. The kid's a stud. Everything he does translates to the next level. He is going to be an all-pro player. If he stays healthy and goes to the right system, he's probably a Hall of Fame player. He has those type of physical attributes. Will Anderson Jr. from Alabama, the kid can do anything. Great teammate, great leader. I could sit here and talk about him forever. I think we all could. I'm not going to spend that much time on him. I don't think it's a surprise that he's number 1 on my list. Maybe even both of you guys. Number 2, I'm still going to go with Jalen Carter here. And I'm going with Jalen Carter because I think you can't ignore what his ceiling is and what his potential is. I think whoever drafts him needs to surround him with good people right off the bat, and buy him a little time to grow up a little bit and kind of mature a little bit and get into the NFL, get his feet supplanted, and really starting to grow into his role as a team. I think he needs to get away with from certain people in his life and really concentrate on football. And I think if you do that, I think the sky's the limit for the kid. There's a lot of people that have him as still the number 1 overall prospect in this draft, and including Will Anderson Jr. and all the quarterbacks. So still a lot of believers in him. I want the kid to succeed. I just think he has to grow up. I think he's got to go to a place, where he can, like I said, where he can mature and kind of really, get his life together and focus on being a professional football player. Number 3, I have Tyrese Wilson for Texas Tech. Kind of an unheralded kid, had a great senior year. Physical attributes, he tested well. He's a kid that could translate to the next level. I think he has a higher ceiling than a lot of people would like to, talk about or admit. And he didn't go to a big school per se. You look at the other schools I have on my list here. You're talking about 3 powerhouses. But again, I think he's a kid that could play outside and succeed at the next level. He's very long, has long arms, powerful. He's got decent speed off the edge. I think he's going to be good. Miles Murphy is, a guy that, I think we're probably all going to debate here a little bit, where we have him, where maybe somebody doesn't have him. I disagree slightly. I think with his physical attributes, I think you have to take a chance on him and get him to a good system where, he's coachable and, kind of get his head kind of refocused on football. I think he had a little bit of too much of an easy ride at Clemson, with his being such a heralded recruit and coming in. And, there's games that you do watch when he turned it on and really wanted to play. He was dominant. And there's other games where he doesn't really jump off the screen, like he should for somebody who is, talked about being, a mid to high first round pick. So, but again, I think somebody's going to take a chance on him just because of his physical attributes. Number 5, I have his teammate, Brian Brees, who I think is probably the more consistent of the two. Don't think he's quite as good an athlete as Miles Murphy. I think he's going to be a very solid NFL player. I think whoever takes him is getting a great kid that is going to buy into whatever system and be a very solid NFL professional. Probably make a couple Pro Bowls here and there, maybe. I don't think he has quite the ceiling as the other four guys that I have on my list, but I think he's a very solid player. He's going to be a very solid pro. So I have Brian Brees at number 5.
All right. Who's next? It's me. I'm glad it's me next because I have a couple comments that I want to get into. Will Anderson Jr. is the best defensive player in this class. The class. He's next level. He's outside linebacker, edge rusher. The guy's intelligence level is off the charts. He's fast, strong, elusive. I cannot wait to see where he lands because he is a defense-altering player. He's a generational talent. I'm a Will Anderson fan. I'm a believer. I love Will Anderson Jr. Do I need to say it again? Like, generational talent. After watching him play versus Georgia, not this year, but last year, I said this kid's going to be the best player coming out next year. No doubt in my mind. I even said on the Georgia championship show, the best player in the game was Will Anderson Jr. If you guys remember that. Number 2, I got Jalen Carter. I think Jalen Carter's situation really matters, like where he goes. Like, you don't want him to go to and normally when you're, getting picked in the top 10 picks, you go to a bad team, which is a bad culture, a bad situation. Because he goes into a bad situation where they're 5-12, I can see him really going off the rails. I think he needs to walk into a right culture, and I think the culture he's going to walk into is the Philadelphia Eagles. I think he goes number 10 to the Eagles, and I think Jalen Carter becomes the new Fletcher Cox and becomes the second most dominant defensive tackle in football for years to come. I love me some Jalen Carter. The guy is an animal. He is strong, fast. He is a game wrecker. You put him on a defensive line with Jordan Davis and Nakobe Dean, and you have your 2021 Georgia Bulldogs up front. I love it. Number 3, I have Tyree Wilson. I read the comment earlier. I want to put it up. John says I would have Murphy over Wilson. I'm not nothing against Miles Murphy, and I'll talk about him in a minute. I struggle to put Miles Murphy on my list. Tyree Wilson has explosion. I see it coming off the ball. I think that Tyree Wilson projects very well to the next level. I think he can be a very solid edge rusher. And he's actually not bad in the run game either. You wouldn't be able to tell by watching some of Texas Tech's games. But he's actually a very good – he stuffs the run very well. Intelligent player. He knows when to crash on the hole. He can almost predict when the play is going to be a stretch play or when they're trying to goad him. He's jumped in front of him, blow up a lot of like bubble screens and reverses, end arounds. Tyree Wilson's always stayed home, and he's been a very strong force there. Nolan Smith, guys, I understand that he is raw, but you don't run a 4.39 and a 4.42 in your combine as big and strong and fast as this kid is. I think he gets lost on that Georgia defense because that Georgia defense is so good. But I think Nolan Smith with the right situation, and he's projected to go in the 20s, right? Which means he's going to walk into a playoff-like situation, and I think he is going to affect the game at another level. I struggle not to put Nolan Smith higher. The guy's attributes and his talents are off the chart. I didn't want to put Miles Murphy on my list. Miles Murphy, to me, lacks explosion. I think it would be better for his game to be moved interiorly, you don't take this guy first round, but I think he would be a very good NASCAR set. Projects out to me to be Brandon Graham, a guy that took a little while to be elite, but he's got to have the work ethic like Brandon did. Brandon can also play inside. He's not the fastest. He's pretty strong, but he doesn't get around blocks very well, and his interior arm motion is not great. I have him number 5. That's Miles Murphy.
All right, so we'll get into my list. My list looks a little bit different. You guys will see that I left off Miles Murphy for a lot of the reasons that Gene just said. I think if you watch that Clemson, if you watch the Clemson tape from last season, or just watch Miles Murphy in general. There's never a time where, if you watch an entirety of a game, where Miles Murphy is the one popping off the screen at you. I'm not saying he's a bad player or anything like that. I just think if you have to be that much of a system guy and there's this much talent in this year's draft class, I wouldn't take you over the 5 guys that I have
I
on the
love
screen.
that.
Now, that's not to say I don't think Miles Murphy can be successful, but I think he has to go. You talked about Brandon Graham. If he goes to a situation where he's the 3rd or 4th best defensive lineman on his team, I mean, I think he would flourish there. But the 5 guys I have ahead of him, I think they have the potential to be the number 1 or the number 2 guy. So that's just a little bit of why Miles Murphy didn't make my list. I'll go the opposite way, though, as you guys. I'll go from 5 to 1, and I'll start out with Brian Brees. Brian Brees is a guy, interior guy. I know a lot of times these guys don't get the love that they deserve just because their numbers don't pop off. The one thing that I love about Brian Brees is, one, his leadership. Leadership is off the charts with him. If you know his story, he had, a tragic thing. His sister passed away this past season. He stepped away a little bit, but then he was right back with his boys and playing football. And I love that already. Character, leadership, all that. That's important to me. The other thing with Brian Brees is that he's great at his job. I mean, he does his job. Great football player. He's going to plug the gap. If you need him to clog a gap, he's going to do that. Very sound. So I love that from him. I think he can be a day 1 starter for any team. My number 4 is a guy who I actually really like, and I didn't really like him coming into this year, and that's Tyree Wilson. Tyree Wilson is a guy who I thought, you talked about Nolan Smith being raw. I kind of felt that way with Tyree Wilson. He's a freak athletically. Screams off the edge. He's powerful. I don't project him to be this, but he's very, if you watch his tape, he's very Myles Garrett-esque when he was at Texas A&M. Just the way he uses his move and his power. And his speed, like all mixed together. I think Tyree Wilson, if he goes to the right system, I think he can be a sack machine.
Picking machine.
My number 3,
Machine.
My number 3, I got Nolan Smith. A lot of this is upside. Yeah, he's definitely, of the 5 guys I have here, he's definitely the most raw. But like Gene said, you run a 4.3, your ability to jump out of the gym, it's gotta translate. And he's from that Georgia culture. Like he's not going to be afraid to work hard. It sucks that we didn't get to see him this past season because he tore his pec, but I think he's had all this time to recover. I know he's going to be ready to hit the ground running. And I don't want to say that he's going to be Micah Parsons or anything like that, because those are tough shoes to fill. But if that's the kind of hybrid, the mold that you want to see him as, and if he goes to a team that can put him in those kinds of situations, I love what he can bring to a team. My number 2 is Will Anderson Jr. I think Will Anderson Jr. is a phenomenal player. I think he can be a generational talent. I 100% agree with both of you guys there. The one worry that I have with Will Anderson Jr. is the same worry that we've had in the past with Ohio State quarterbacks. They just don't pan out in the NFL. And it's not to say that Bama doesn't have D linemen that are great in the NFL. It's to say that jack position that they use at Alabama, a lot of those guys typically don't pan out. I think Will Anderson is different because Will Anderson is special, but I think it is going to be very system dependent. I want him to go to a 3-4 team. I don't see him going to the Steelers, but I want him to go to a team like that's going to use him like how the Steelers use TJ Watt. I think that is the perfect situation for him. But that's the only reason why I have him number 2. My number 1 guy is Jalen Carter. I mean, I think obviously he has his stuff going on off the field, but when he's on the field, he is an absolute force. The one thing that I really, really loved about Jalen Carter is his work ethic. So if you watch the game against Ohio State, he didn't have a bad game, but he didn't have a game up to his standards. They said after that game, he was on the practice field consistently. He was trying to get his cardio together for the national championship game, and he worked his ass off just to get better for a game the following week. And you saw in that national championship game against TCU, he was phenomenal. I think he's a one-man wrecking crew. You see how big he is, and the disruption that he has, I think he can change your defensive line, and I think he's going to be a guy that teams have to go in game planning for, game in and game out. So that's why I got Jalen Carter as my number
So you know
one.
where I think Will Anderson Jr. is going to go and what I can see for him? I think he goes to the
Where's that?
Arizona Cardinals, and he plays in that Jonathan Gannon system that allowed Hassan Reddick to have his best season. And
I would
the
love that.
projection I see for Will Anderson Jr. is this year's Hassan Reddick and better. I think that we can talk about what we looked at with the jack position for Alabama for years. You watch this kid, just watch him play. And I know you've watched him play a ton. Just the way he reads plays, the way he disrupts plays. That Georgia team ran so many misdirections versus Alabama, but the only person that was always home, that was always there, he was getting blocked by a offensive tackle and still got his arm out there to make the play, was Will Anderson Jr. He's just different, man. He's different. Much different than any defensive player I've seen coming out of college in a long time. Like Micah was great, but you didn't get to see Micah fully in college. He sat out as the COVID year. Like I'm a Penn State guy. Like he looks better for Dallas than he ever looked for Penn State. Like nothing against him. He looked good for Penn State. We all knew he was going to be great, but with Will, you've seen it for 2 straight years. The proof is there. And, that's the reason I think that Bryce Young is going to end up going number 1 ahead of C.J. Stroud. I think Frank Wright's going to go back to that board and say, I've seen this guy do it for 2 years. That Alabama team's just got a lot of real pro-ready players. And I think Will Anderson Jr. is the best overall player in this draft. I think he goes down as the best player in 15 years from now when we look back at this draft. When they do the 2023 redraft, you're going to go Will Anderson Jr., best player. Fun list. We'll get into the offensive side of it. I don't think Stroud's going to go number 1, Jeremy. I really don't. We can have that debate real quick if you guys want, but there's a lot of information that's been coming out recently that Bryce Young's going to be number 1. His odds have skyrocketed up. FanDuel. I think Bryce Young goes to Carolina.
Yes.
I really believe that.
The one thing that kind of confuses me is that after the combine, after the pro days, all of that, I'm not going to say it was a done deal that CJ was going to go number 1, but the odds were heavily skewed. I think he was like minus 500 or so. CJ had great odds there. Nothing has really changed since then. Like Bryce Young didn't go out and run a 4.5 or a 4.4 at his pro day. Like I get it, he threw at his pro day, but nothing has really changed since then. So I'm really confused. Confused, not the word. I'm really interested to see what Carolina's
people read into everything. They were even reading into Twitter about like following DJ Chark and Adam Thielen. There's a lot of things people read into. I just think when I look at these two guys and I watched them play football, Bryce Young showed me he's the best quarterback coming out of college. Now, I got to give CJ Stroud credit. I was off CJ Stroud for a year and a half. And that game versus Georgia on New Year's Eve really made me turn the page on CJ Stroud. I apologize, CJ Stroud fans, for all the slander I threw on his name. But if we look at CJ Stroud, in the 4 biggest games he's played as a college quarterback, he only showed up for 1 of them. The other 3 he did not show up for. And we say we want to say he didn't. But, hey, listen, the most important one was that game versus Georgia, and he looked phenomenal. What's your thoughts, Bill? Who goes 1?
I think Carolina's going to take Bryce. I think for a while I was pretty sold on CJ. I think they went back and I think they looked at everything. And I think, kind of like you said, I think they feel more comfortable with knowing who Bryce really has been for the last 2 years per se. Whereas, like you said, like I think CJ's put up great numbers. I think I'm higher on CJ now than I would say that I almost was on Fields coming out 2 years ago. I think he showed me a lot at the end of the year, But again, I think you're comparing to the guy that's played really high level for 2 years and the guy that's kind of like continue to, improve. And it's a matter. I think it's a personal choice of what they feel comfortable with and what they want, and how they're going to run their offense. I think they're both going to be successful. I think CJ's shown that he can throw the ball at all three levels, throw accurately. I think if there's one gap in a skill for me, I think it's how much comfortable Bryce is in the pocket versus CJ. I don't think CJ likes to really escape and use his legs like he could. I think they're an underutilized weapon for him. But I think Bryce's awareness in the pocket and the way he moves his feet, the way he constantly keeps his eyes up and downfield, he's well mature beyond his years with things like that. And I think that's going to lead to him having more success at the pro level quicker. But I think whoever picks them 1-2, however they go, I think both teams are getting good quarterbacks.
I want to address this comment real quick. The IQ test for Young was off the charts, but Stroud, I think, has the highest floor than Young. I agree. I think CJ Stroud has the higher floor, being 6'3", the prototypical quarterback that's going to be able to stand in that pocket and sling the ball. But the number one overall pick, I don't draft floor. I draft ceiling. And I think Bryce has the higher ceiling. So we can say what we want to say about floor, but I think the ceiling is higher for Bryce. And I think the big difference between Bryce and CJ is Bryce's ability to ad lib and make plays when the play is breaking down in front of him, getting out of pressure and being able to throw on the run. A play he made versus Georgia that I still watch, and I'm still baffled by it. He escaped the pocket, he dropped back, pressure coming from the outside. He ducked in, moved over, and then hit a seed up the sideline. And it was just like, man, that was just special. And when I watched that, I don't know. I love watching what I see with Bryce Young. I think he's just playmaking abilities off the charts.
That you factor the play that he made, against the Texas game that saved their asses in that game. Pretty much had a guy on his back and same kind of thing, ducked out and rolled to his right, threw the ball over the middle, and saved the game for Alabama. They were about to lose that game. Those are plays that you could only make if you're that comfortable and that confident in what you're doing and where everybody on the field is going to be. And I think that maturity and that grasp of the game and the offense, I think is it's the little things like that I think are separating him from CJ right now.
I think, by the way, I want to address this point by Jeremy. He said that's a great point, but have we seen this with Kyler? I think Bryce Young right now is more mature than Kyler Murray 5 years into the league.
Agreed.
I think that's a bad comparison. You're just looking at them because they're short, when in reality, Bryce Young is just light year. And you said it yourself. Bryce Young's IQ test was off the charts. He understands football. He understands the game. I love him. So, all right, we're going to move on to some UFC recap. We had a fun pay-per-view we just had. Cottrell's got lighting now. Look at this. I'm like excited to see that pretty face of his. But the UFC card was fun. It was a fun card as a whole. I enjoyed it to its fullest. I went 5 for 5 on my show predictions. 5 for 5. I predicted the young kid to get beat. I thought he was going to get put in the muddy waters, and he did. I said Rob Font. Rob Font was in trouble early, knocked him out cold. I said I would love to pick Jorge by decision plus 900, but my official pick was Gilbert. I thought Gilbert would win the fight. And I told you Israel Adesanya, something about him changed. But I went 5 for 5 on my predictions for the card. And that's not the only reason I love the card. I love the card for a lot of reasons. Jorge Masvidal hung him up. Let's talk about that first. I think it's good time for Gamebred to hang him up. He's got nowhere else to go. He's not getting better. He's getting slower. He cheated in the fight, and I'm a Jorge guy. He greased himself up. Gilbert said that after the fight. He's like, I would have been able to take him down earlier if he didn't put like all this grease on his body. Jorge will try any trick to win a fight. And that's what I've loved about Jorge over the years. He's always been a guy wanting to fight. But over the last 3 years, you've really seen Jorge Masvidal slow down. And I think the Kamaru Usman knockout was like literally to me like the time where you just watched Jorge's career leave his body. I didn't want to accept it, but Gilbert Burns just proved he's just on another level than most of these 170 guys, and he's in that Elite Four.
I think Gilbert's still improving. I think, which is kind of kind of the scary part. I think the second fight with Jorge and Usman, like you said, that knockout, I think was tough, even though he took that on short notice.
No, second fight was regular notice. First
Oh
fight.
no, sorry, that's right. You're right. The second fight, I still think if he turns around and beats Colby, I think he's okay. I'm not going to give Colby any credit to his statement or anything like that, saying that he retired him, because he didn't. It's just Colby, being Colby. But I think that fight really kind of sucked the soul out of Jorge. I think the emotional lift he would have got if he could have won that rivalry fight, and I think that would have put a lot of joy and energy back into him fighting if he could have got past Colby somehow. So I think that one, like you said, I think that one kind of, I think that kind of sucked the soul out of Jorge a little bit. And again, I think if he beats Gilbert, I don't think we're having this discussion. I don't think he would have beat Gilbert and hung him up. So, but Gilbert, I think it's crazy to say, as long as he's been fighting and the fights we've seen him in, like you said, I think he's in the Elite Four. I think Gilbert is hitting this weird, like, second win in his career where he's actually getting better.
I don't think Gilbert's getting better, but I got you. You're talking about Gilbert Burns.
Yeah.
I don't think it's second wind of his career. I think that Gilbert's just been improving. I think Gilbert is getting better. I just don't think it's a second win. I think he's still pretty. I mean, I guess he is 34, so you might be more closer to right there.
And he's been in a lot of fights, man. I mean, so that's what I mean. It's it's not as drastic as, say, like Glover, like, who was, been around forever and then kind of like went on this like magical run at the end. I don't think it's anything like that, but he's got a little bit of a revitalization of his career right now. So it'd be curious to see where he goes. I just hope Jorge, if that's what was in his heart to really leave, then I hope he stays gone. Apparently he's been working on a lot of stuff behind the scenes, in regards to promoting, and he really wants to get into coaching. And I think he would be great at that. I mean, I think Jorge, has the skill set and, the temperament to really teach guys and really, help promote them. I think he would be good at it. I really do. I think he'd be successful doing that. So I hope he stays retired and doesn't try to be the guy that comes back, 2 years from now for some big money nonsense fight. Like, I think he had a good enough career that I don't want him to make a mockery of himself and what he accomplished.
That's fair. It's fair. I agree with you. I hope he stays retired. Cottrell?
I mean, I agree with what you guys are saying. But I think there is potentially one fight left on the table for Jorge. Depending on what happens with Conor McGregor and Michael Chandler, if Conor's not in the title mix like at all after that fight, depending on how he looks, I would be very interested to see a matchup with Conor and Jorge. Like, I could see that. If you want to put the BMF title up for grabs, like, you could sell that as your main event. Like, that'd be a fun fight. You're not going to see much wrestling there. Those guys are going to go in, try and knock each other's heads off, and they would be, I mean, especially if Conor loses to Michael Chandler, essentially they'd be at the same point of each other's careers, where it's the tail end. You're not fighting for top contention. I can see you guys fighting against each other.
Cottrell, I love you. You know how much I love Jorge Masvidal. I don't want that fight for him. His arms are slower. His body is slower. Father Time has caught up to him.
For sure.
If he gets in the ring with Conor McGregor and stands up with him, he's going to get knocked out cold. It's not going to be a great fight for him, and I'm a Jorge guy.
But that's the kind of fight I would want to see him in, a fight where you don't have to worry about him being taken down. He could let his hands loose.
Give me a fighter that's not as good so he can go out on a win, not get his belt knocked out again. I just can't do that. I can't keep watching that, man. I'm a Jorge guy. I've watched him for years. I love the way he fights. I don't want to watch him fight Conor McGregor. And if he fights Conor McGregor, he's going to get smoked.
I'm just saying, I think that could be a big money fight. I think it would sell a lot. You would have great press conferences.
Yeah.
It's gonna
That
be a
would be, I
circus,
mean,
though.
for sure, for sure. Honestly, anything with either one of those guys, if they have the right dance partner, it's a circus. So, but that would be one that I would like to see. But Jorge, I mean, gotta give it up to him, man. They taking the fight against Gilbert Burns in your city, like in your home city, that does take a lot of stones to do because I mean everybody going into that fight, I feel like if you actually watch the UFC, I think everybody going into that fight was picking Gilbert Burns. Like that's why the odds were as high as they were and all that. It is as fun as Jorge is to watch and support on the mic, things like that. You knew Gilbert Burns is just he's just a better fighter at this point in his career. So I definitely give a lot of respect to Jorge for taking that fight in his hometown, especially if he was considering retiring afterwards. But I mean, the fight itself, I mean, Gilbert Burns dominated. I mean, there's not really much to talk about the fight itself.
Yeah. I actually had Jorge winning that first round until like 10 seconds left.
The takedown.
Gilbert took him down. And I still think I would have nodded the round to Jorge. It was a very close round with the takedown added, but I thought Jorge was winning the round.
Yeah, for
but
sure.
I could understand 29-28 or 30-27. I knew that fight was being lost.
Yeah. But you had even said it though on the show last week about like the preview. Jorge is one of those fighters that he does start out fast, and for him to have even had a chance in that fight, he had to win the first round.
Yep.
And I also thought once that takedown happened, I thought it was super close, but that takedown puts you over the top. So I had it 30-27 as well, but I did think the first round was close as well.
Let's move on to Israel Adesanya versus Alex Pereira. Man, you want to talk about a knockout. And I'll tell you, and I want to address on a lot of things in this fight. One, Izzy is the pettiest fighter in UFC. Like, he remembers everything. He remembers the Alex entrance where he was shooting the arrows. He remembers his kid getting in the ring when they fought in kickboxing and laid down. He mocked him for that. I will say this. Israel Adesanya ran so fast from that trilogy fight after the fight was over. I still think he's running. It's unbelievable how fast he ran away from that trilogy. No, he's not getting a rematch. No, he should go to 205. Like, you don't want to see that man again in the cage. Like, I think Izzy won the fight, but I still think there's a part of Alex that lives inside of his head rent free. Obviously, Izzy knocked him out.
I definitely agree with that, but I almost wonder behind the scenes, was that something that both sides already knew? Because since then, Alex hasn't been clamoring for the trilogy. Damon even came on afterwards and said, no, I think Alex is moving to 205. Yep. So I almost wonder, like, did they know going in that, hey, no matter what happens, at least for now, this is going to be it? Because Izzy has definitely been like, no, I think Alex is going 205. Like, we got to, figure something else out.
I love the way you changed the way he worded it. That's not how that worked.
No. He didn't say, oh, no. He didn't, like, just downplay it altogether. And
he said he didn't deserve a rematch. He said he deserved a rematch when he lost to Alex because what he's done in the UFC rate. And then he did Alex a favor by giving him the fight to begin with. And that after he knocked him out, he ended it. And that he doesn't deserve a rematch. Then he said he was going to 205. I heard the whole press conference.
There was also a time when they were talking backstage, and he was talking about how much he respected Alex, and how much he had
it
to.
Looked
how
like
much
he
Alex,
did respected him after the fight.
Made him work. The funny part is that literally, if you saw them like back before they left to go to the press conference, they were hugging each other and talking. He's like, you were a great champion, and I respect you, and like all this other stuff, like all that in there is just talk, part of the business, whatever. Like they have a mutual respect for each other. So that's the only reason why I say I don't think Izzy is just. I think Izzy's playing up who he is. He's playing up the win. He's playing up, fighting back from being the underdog and, the redemption behind it.
Charlie, your thoughts on the Izzy Alex fight?
Yeah, I mean, you guys touched on most of it. I mean, I thought, the press conference was kind of funny. I think Izzy made decent points, but at the same time, I do agree. I don't think Izzy wants to get back in the cage with him. he took some bombs right before he knocked him out. I mean, it was kind of, I don't want to say it definitely wasn't a lucky punch or anything like that. I mean, he wasn't getting the best of that exchange when it started.
He said he's playing rope-a-dope.
Yeah, I don't believe that. So
you don't believe that?
No, I don't.
I somewhat do believe it, because if you watch that, I didn't realize it. Someone did a breakdown after the fact, but if you watch that sequence and then watch the sequence from their first fight in the UFC, it was basically the exact same thing. The one right before the round ended early in that fight, where he knocked him down, it was pretty much the exact same thing. So I think that was his strategy going into the fight, and this time he just had enough time to finish it off. So I actually somewhat do believe it, because it was almost identical situations.
It was. I will say this. There's a lot of things I want to get into about Izzy's next opponent and what should happen. But I'm gonna unfollow Cottrell on Twitter. Like, I don't understand. Like, I feel like there's
I already know what this is.
I feel like there's something.
Oh, man.
No, the truth is, I think there's something. I don't know who did it. Like, somebody in Habib's family, somebody did something to Cottrell. Like, the amount of, like, he did. It's not even like it was his post. He quote tweeted somebody else's post to say that I would say Izzy's better. Like, he just finds a new fighter to say is better than Habib after they lose.
No,
talking about a guy that lost 2 out of his last 3 fights.
No.
The funniest part is,
that's not what it said. I said he wasn't there yet, but there is an argument that can be made. We're talking about a guy who's fought in a championship fight 8 different times, won or defended his belt 8 times. He's not there yet, but there's a reason why. You can lose and still you can get to a Mount Rushmore. Why is GSP as high as he is? Why is he better than Khabib? And Khabib was undefeated because he fought and he defended his belt. He won the belt. Like, Izzy's not there yet, but I'm saying Izzy fights 3 to 4 times a year and he's not afraid to defend his belt. He's not there yet, but I'm saying he can get there, and we can have a conversation be made.
Put in that conversation because you want to hate on Habib. You know the part that really blows my mind, and it's the part that really I think that you don't get, is for years Habib was trying to fight for the title, and for years they were blowing him off and pushing him to the side and wouldn't give him fights. He was calling out fighters left and right. No one would sign the contract with him. The only one that was signing the contract with him was Tony. And then unfortunate situations happened with both of them, where Habib got injured and then Ramadan happened and Tony got injured. Like, I get it. I understand your point, but I think that you don't realize how dominant he was.
I 100%
guy lost 1 round in his career.
I 100% understand. I'm just saying,
1 round in his career.
A guy who defended his
lost
belt
2 out of his last 4 fights.
A guy who defended his championship belt 2 times cannot be my undisputed GOAT without people having a chance to catch him. Like, that's
no one said he's the undisputed GOAT.
I'm saying, like, one of those.
Israel Adesanya to Habib Nurmagomedov is laughable.
Izzy's got way more title defenses. Khabib didn't go up to 170.
Randy Couture has way more title defenses. Do we compare him to Habib?
Does Randy Couture have 2 losses?
BJ Penn has way more title defenses. He also has 14 losses.
And how many does Izzy has? Izzy has 2. That's what I'm saying. How many does GSP have? Why is GSP so great is what I'm saying.
All right, well, where is like the disconnect? Like, Gene, where do you have them? Like, what number?
It's like 4.
Okay, so then your top 4 are.
If I'm really being honest with myself, like, my top 4 are John, Anderson, George, and Habib.
Okay, so where do you differ, Cottrell? Like, what is the dispute?
I mean, I have those other 3, and then I would have Mighty Mouse there as my 4.
He just makes up fighters to put there.
Mighty, I've said this. We've had this conversation like 6 times on this show. Mighty Mouse has been on my list every single time.
The best part about it was I saw Cottrell's tweet, and I wasn't going to comment on it, but I literally just liked it. So when you came through, I was expecting. I just want to like it so I get the notification when Gene started to comment on it. That's what I was waiting for the entire time.
All I'm saying is that, and again, if you go back and look at it, I didn't say Izzy is better at this moment. But the way Izzy fights and his volume, there's a reason why GSP is respected and higher on the GOAT list than what Khabib is. And I'm just saying, Izzy is on his way to that, the way that he fights and the volume that he fights.
I want to answer this question real quick. Who do you think's next? Or Izzy, Hamzat, Vettori for a third fight, or could it possibly Blachowicz since he was the first person to beat Izzy? It's not going to be Blachowicz. He's not going to go back to 205. I don't think it'll be Martin Vettori. I think what Izzy does, I
absolutely won't be Vettori.
I think Izzy sits out for a couple months, waits to see how the Hamzat fight plays out. Hamzat just signed a fight to fight
Paulo Costa.
Paulo Costa. I think after Hamzat runs through Paulo Costa, I'll get into that in a second, Kevin. After Hamzat runs through Paulo Costa, I think Hamzat will then take Izzy's title from him. And then I think that Control will make a new argument for another person that should be ahead of Khabib afterwards. So I think the answer would be Hamzat would be his next fight. And then I want to put up Kevin's comment here because I agree with him. It's like comparing Manu Ginobili to Giannis. Giannis hasn't played as long. Manu played more. He played more championships. But Khabib is in a different galaxy.
I want you to find me a player in any other sport on the planet that if you win 3 times, you are the top 4 ever in that sport. You find me the sport, and I'm listening to your argument.
If you win 3 times, he won 30 times.
No. See, here we go getting back to this. We're talking about championships. I don't care what you do.
So you want me to find a sport
I don't care what you do
where
against
someone's
Joe
won
Schmo
3 championships.
I don't care what
the
you
top of their sport.
I don't care what you do in, Joe Schmo in
Who's
Kazakhstan.
your GOAT, by the way? Who's your GOAT in basketball?
In the UFC?
In the NBA?
Yeah, LeBron.
He's won 4 times.
Okay, correct. He's also has
won 3.
He also has the most points ever, and he's top 4 in assists ever.
And Habib has the most rounds won without losing a round ever.
Does he have the most takedowns ever? Does he have the most title defenses ever? Does he have the most strikes ever? These are things that you can.
That's a really stupid question.
That's why I said most takedowns ever. That's why that was the first question. If you
I don't know if
he has the most
takedowns ever. I don't know.
If you are statistically the number 1 or the number 2 ever, I can hear your argument.
I want you to point at
you
one
defend
round.
your belt 2 times, and you are the top 4 of the sport ever. That is insane. Defend the belt twice. That's insane.
It's like talking to a wall.
Hey, I'm just okay. So let me ask you this question. I'll leave it at that.
Demetrius Johnson fought the same 30 fights and was 27-3.
Okay, correct. And he also defended his belt.
8 of them were title fights, though.
And he defended his belt for like 10 years. So what's your point?
GSP has the most takedowns ever in the UFC. Mighty Mouse is number 3.
Just to be clear, where's Khabib at?
You're making stuff up.
He's not in the top 10.
Khabib has four title wins.
No, he doesn't.
Ally Quinta, Conor McGregor, Dustin Poirier, Justin Gaethje.
We're talking about it. I guess. I mean, that's 3. Wins? That's 3.
Ally Quinta, Conor McGregor, Dustin Poirier.
And if while we're here, let's get on the topic. The 4 guys you named, only one of them has ever been a champion. If we're going to get into it, let's get into it.
You can get into anything that you want to get into. How many people have been a champion that Izzy beat?
I'm gonna take a nap.
Robert Whittaker has been a champion.
Okay, that's 1.
That's 1. Alex Pereira's been a champion. That's 2.
Yeah, because he beat Izzy. Rashad.
Hey, I'm just saying. You want to talk about the number? Hey, it's there. But the question I was going to ask you: why is GSP higher on your GOAT list than Khabib?
Because GSP fell off at the end of his career, and I judge him by his prime. He didn't have anything in the middle of his prime he was blemished 1 time by Matt Serra in the middle of his prime. When he hit his prime to when he ends his prime. That's the way I look at fighters. I look at what they are in the middle of their prime, like the top of their game. That's how. So, like the question I brought up before was Barry Sanders versus Walter Payton, Barry Sanders versus Jim Brown. Barry Sanders only had 10 years in the league, but his prime was so much better than any other running backs. That's why most people consider him the greatest running back of all time. The thing with Khabib is at his prime, at his peak, he was unblemished. His entire career, he was unblemished. The reason I have GSP over him is because his peak was longer. He did it longer. He only had one small blemish, and it was a knockout punch from hell. But other than that, GSP dominated the sport for 7.5 years. That's why. Any rebuttals?
So what does Izzy have to 5 straight title defenses?
Then we can have the conversation.
He's still not there?
But stop bringing in the conversation now. It's not a conversation now. You fell off of Kamaru Usman because you lost both
now.
fights.
We're talking right now.
But the conversation can't happen right now.
Exactly. I can exactly. I 100%.
And you're wrong.
Understand that Kamaru in a division for 5 years in a row.
All right. The thing about this is it went from Kamaru Usman, who got lost 2 fights in a row, to now Izzy, who's lost 2 out of his last 4 fights. I just don't want to be on Control's GOAT list because they're probably going to lose the next 2 fights.
In his defense, though, he said Kamaru wasn't there yet, though. Like, you keep saying that. He said if he did win 2 more times,
correct,
that it was a discussion. So I mean, I'm not saying I agree with him. I'm not sticking up for anybody. He did say he wasn't there yet, though. And he said if he won his next 2 fights, he would be, and he didn't. So I mean, off the mountain he goes.
All right, so then we can talk
he
about
took his ball and went home with
Izzy,
155 is at the best it's ever been. Khabib took his ball and went home. That was the best that it's ever been.
No, he ran through the division. Everybody in the division he beat.
No.
Nobody else to fight.
Say that. Don't say that. Bitch, that he's beat. Nobody. Has he fought Charles Oliveira?
Charles Oliveira just got beat up by his protege. The guy he trains.
But has he fought Charles Oliveira?
Charles Oliveira wasn't a thing when Khabib retired.
He's faced the top. He's faced the top
Charles
3 guys
wasn't
once.
the top when he retired.
Again, don't say he ran through the division when he fought the top guys.
Rafael Dos Anjos, Michael Johnson, Edison Barbosa, Conor McGregor, Dustin Poirier, Justin Gaethje. Who else did you learn to beat at that time?
Never been a champion. Never been a champion. Never been a champion. Never been a champion.
Dustin was an interim champion. Conor was the double belt champion, and Michael Johnson.
I don't care about interim champion. If you can't unify,
Michael Johnson was a Bellator champion. All right, let's move on. How are we having a discussion about Izzy being a top fighter of all time? He's not close. Frankie Edgar, Jose Aldo. I got 30 more better fights.
Jose Aldo, I will give you Jose Aldo. I mean, if you, I can 100% say I got Jose ahead of Izzy right now on my GOAT list. That's for sure.
Where do you rank Izzy all time? Kevin wants to know.
Where do I rank Izzy all time right now? He's probably like 8 or 9. Yeah, he's
okay.
Where
do you have Khabib?
Khabib's probably like 6.
Okay.
So who do you have 5th then?
He's gonna have to steal
Jose
a woman
over Khabib.
Jose Aldo.
I don't know if I can. I don't know if I can do that.
Bro, are we forgetting how Jose ran featherweight? Like, I get it. Conor knocked him out and knocked him off the planet, but Jose Aldo was the featherweight king for 8 years.
And the division everybody ran from because it was a terrible division.
I'd have to go back and look at everybody he beat.
So now everybody is running from this. So now everybody's running from the division. That's crazy.
155 drew a lot more. It just is what it is. I got Jose's run right here for you. Chad Mendes, Ricardo Lamas, the Korean Zombie, Frankie Edgar, Chad Mendes, Kenny Florian, Mark Hominick, Manville Gabaroven. I don't even know who that is. Uriah Faber, Mike Brown, Cub Swanson. These guys are stellar.
He's got like 5 good wins, 5 out of 10.
I agree. They're decent wins.
That was Chad in his prime.
Khabib has 4.
Beating him in any. Habib has 4 title wins. It's not 4 good wins, bro. Stop
No,
pretending
Habib
Michael
has 4
Johnson
quality
wasn't a good
wins. Bro,
win.
you talk
Stop
about
pretending Rafael dos Anjos isn't a quality win.
Mike Johnson's a good
Rafael dos Anjos is not a
win.
quality win. He was a champion too, by the way. Does that not count?
I'm counting RDA. I'm
Well,
counting.
he was a champion too. So was Connor. So was Poirier. So you said
I'm
person was a
counting.
champion.
Poirier was not a champion. Poirier was not a champion.
He was the interim champion.
They don't count them as championships.
I count them.
Well,
it fits my argument. I may
Poirier wasn't a champion. I'm not saying these guys aren't good.
I'm just avoiding moving on because I don't want to trash Bill's favorite golfer anymore.
What'd you say?
I'm just avoiding moving on because I don't want to trash Bill's favorite golfer.
Wow, we can trash him. He deserves to be trashed.
Yeah, he deserves to be trashed because that performance on Sunday was absolute trash. You're talking about being up 4 strokes in the Masters. Had every break go his way as far as weather. He was on the course before the weather hit on Friday before the suspended play. He got to his whole round. On Saturday, they stopped it in the middle of the pouring rain, so he didn't have to continue playing when everybody else was playing in pouring rain for their entire round. Look, let's call it like it is, right? Jon Rahm played his ass off Sunday, made every right play, made the smart move on every hole. But Brooks Koepka, every time Jon Rahm opened the door, Koepka made an equally bad shot. Jon Rahm hit a ball off into the woods on the right side. Brooks Koepka found the ball around the woods on the right side. Jon Rahm shorted the green. Brooks Koepka hit it 35 feet to the left of the green. Every time Jon Rahm opened the door, Brooks Koepka 3-putted on a par 5. Like, I just drove me nuts. I've never seen Brooks Koepka 3-putt in my life, and he did it 3 times on Sunday.
I'm not going to lie to you. Friday, during the day, Brooks was going on his run. I got to give Audia, I give her flowers. She said it was 3:30. She was like, Brooks is going to. That's exactly what I want to bring back in here. You know, Fine High is looking good, but yeah, that was definitely one of the that we've seen. I was experience for him to falter the way that he did. It was shocking. But the other thing that was fun about Sunday, Phil came out of just hot. You know, for him to tie for second in that Masters, that was incredible. It seemed like he was birding every chance he could. It was definitely
8 birdies on Sunday.
Fun to watch on Sunday.
Just Phil doing Phil things. You know, the only thing I'm going to disagree with, I think the way the weather ended up actually playing out, I actually hurt Brooks. You know, I think him getting suspended around 3 at the beginning of his round, and he was playing well at that point. I think that's what hurt him. I think Jon Rahm played great Sunday. You know, like you said, it's, you know, audio will tell Cottrell, anybody who's golfed, the margin of error on those courses is so small. And, you know, like Gene said, there was a couple windows where he could have got back into the tournament, took an advantage of Rahm, you know, a couple errant shots from Rahm. He also hit a couple shots that, you know, were a foot away from catching a ridge and going 4 feet from the hole, and they went the other way. But, you know, and then you had a 30-foot putt, and like you end up 3-putting, like Gene said. That is the difficulty of winning a major. I'm also beginning to think Augusta's kind of in Brooks's head a little bit. You know, the last 2 years he didn't make the cut because he was hurt, his knee and then his hip, respectively. The year before that, people forget he was winning on Sunday going into 12, and he double bogeyed 12, and they kind of fell apart down the stretch again. He was tied for second the year before that. Going into 12 and 13 again, he went bogey. Starting to, you know, think it's kind of a mental thing with Brooks and Augusta, but he played great. I mean, the best part of it for me is I think, you know, the proof is definitely in the pudding now. The Masters was up 12% from last year, or 19% from last year, sorry. Over 12 million viewers alone on Easter Sunday, which is the highest Easter viewership they've ever had. people wanted to see the best play, man, and have it be PGA, have it be live, whatever it is. That's what people want to see. So Jay Monahan and Greg Norman and whoever the hell else it needs to be need to lock themselves in a room and figure something the hell out, because it's, you want to watch major tournament golf. You want to see the best players in the world, and that's what you got. So having Phil in the mix was great as well. And then Patrick Reed finished tied for fifth. So I mean, three of the top six golfers were live golfers. So it was interesting. I thought it was a great day. I wanted Brooksy to win because I thought it'd been really interesting if a live guy would have won. And he's definitely a guy that is, he's pretty honest in his interview. So I think that could have been real interesting. But I'm a huge John Rahm guy, so I like him as well. I'm happy for him. He's a great guy. He made some interesting comments today as well. Somebody blatantly asked him, what do you think how live has affected the PGA Tour? And he kind of gave a very interesting answer. It was kind of very open. It was very honest, and he kind of said, he's like, a lot of things that Phil said were true, and if he didn't say what he did, I don't think we would have these designated events and all this money all of a sudden. So curious to see if he gets any kind of flack for that. But that was, again, I was disappointed because I wanted to see Brooks win because I'm a Brooks guy. But I think the most disappointing thing for me all weekend, I thought, was how awful Rory McIlroy played. So he didn't even make the damn cut. He I don't know. He almost looked like he didn't want to be there. I thought it was very weird to me.
Okay. Well, I don't really have much more to say about it. I want you to answer John Suggs' question, though. I said, do you think Woods retires altogether this year, or just stay in the swing of things until he turns 50 and can enter the senior tour?
I think you'll you'll definitely see him play the senior tour because he can take a cart. And then what he's going to do to those guys is just going to be comical. I don't want to say this because I don't want it to be true, but I think especially with the majors, I think golf is so competitive right now. If he's in the field, he's taking up a spot of a guy that I think has a better chance to win than Tiger does. I said a couple years ago when he got hurt, the only chance he had to win another major was Augusta because he knows the course so well, and that's the only major that doesn't change. I don't think, unless something drastically happens with that leg and he gets better, I don't think he could physically get through a major right now. Like if he didn't play, if he would have withdrew, like you had somebody like Ricky Fowler or something like that would have played this weekend. I think he gets a lot of leeway because of who he is, and he's rightfully so earned that. Jason Day, told the story this weekend though, like when he played with him 2 years ago, at the end of the round, like the one screw from his ankle was like coming through his skin. Like I just don't think he's in a spot where that leg is anywhere near good enough to play 4 full rounds of golf, especially with walking. And people don't realize how hilly Augusta is. I think if something changes, I think he should play. If not, I really think he has to consider not taking a spot in these tournaments right now. And that's tough for me to say because of who he is and what he's done for the sport. I just think that's being realistic, and I think that's being fair at this point.
I will say I disagree just a little bit. I think we saw he made the cut this time around. So yes, he is taking up a spot from a guy who could potentially be there. If you're good enough to make the cut, obviously he wasn't in like super contention or anything like that.
Did he make the cut? Do you think that was fixed?
Those are about two of the most horrible consecutive holes I've ever seen Justin Thomas play in his career. They are best friends. I know how competitive Justin Thomas is, so I don't think Justin Thomas would do that. I don't think Tiger Woods would want Justin Thomas to do that. But that being said, it's a little fishy. So again, to say Tiger made the cut is a little bit of a.
That's why I asked that. He said he made the cut. I'm just like, I don't know.
No. But I was going to say though too. The other thing is that Tiger even said if this wasn't the Masters, I wouldn't have been playing. I wouldn't have been playing this week. So I think obviously he wasn't ready to play, and the weather just was like the double whammy on top of that. So I think you give him some time off, and maybe he plays a tournament with his son again later in the year, something that's not like super serious, but you give him some more time to rest. And I think he tries to golf at the Masters again next year. Like, I don't think this is how he wants to go out his last major. So I don't think that was the last time we see Tiger in a major. I think he goes for at least one more.
Okay. All right, let's get into You Got to Be Kidding Me, gentlemen. Cottrell, start us off.
Who do I want to use for my You Gotta Be Kidding Me?
Y'all know
go
who
back
I'm
in my
using.
notes here. I do know who you're using. I got to go back to my notes here. Give me 1 second. I don't have it here. Bill, you should go ahead of me. Let me figure out what it was.
Gonna go. I don't
I had
have
one.
I've been so damn busy. I haven't had enough time to get pissed off at anybody this week.
I got one.
I
got
100% had one.
Somebody needed to use Brooks too, but whatever. I won't. My You Got to Be Kidding Me this week is Zion Williamson. We touched on it earlier in the show, and I'll get deeper into it now. Zion did an interview recently in which he said, I'm healthy. Physically, I'm fine. I just don't feel like I'm Zion yet. I don't feel confident right now. Be thrown into playoff basketball. This guy got drafted with the #1 pick and signed a max extension. Hasn't played more than 50 games in a year ever. And for him to say, I'll come back when I'm Zion. Talking about himself in the third person to half the interview. It was hilarious. She's like, I don't, when Zion feels like Zion, then I'll come back. Absolute joke. No physical ailment, no health issues. His team's fighting in the playoff playing game. He could be there. He doesn't have to start. He could come off the bench. He could be a rotational piece. And if he's feeling it, great. And if he's not feeling it, then that's fine. But you're talking about a guy that you're giving max money to, wasting another year of Brandon Ingram's career, CJ McCollum's career, Grand Theft Alvarado's career. I can't stand it. It bothers me. It makes me sick to my stomach. Guy reminds me so much of Ben Simmons. I don't think the guy loves basketball. I think he's just really big, athletic, and he's always been great at it. Talking about a guy made a real lot of money from basketball to never really do anything. This guy was elected all-star starter this year. Are you kidding me? So for that reason, Zion Williamson, you're this week's.
Come on, you gotta be kidding me.
I have mine. I do have mine here. I found what it was.
You just want to go last.
It involves my Cleveland Browns. I love going first. You gotta be kidding me.
I'm kidding, bro.
Cleveland Browns defensive lineman Perry Winfrey was arrested on Monday following allegations he got physical with his girlfriend during an argument. With Perry Winfrey, last year he was a rookie defensive tackle out of Oklahoma for us, and he had his issues with the Browns already. He was showing up late to practice, not knowing what he needed to do. They had actually suspended him one game in-house where he just didn't dress. He was a healthy scratch. And so he's been a guy who basically came in and just wasn't mature enough already. So, you were a 4th-round pick. It's not like you were this guy who was, highly touted and you're gonna be afforded these screw-ups and get chances after chances. And for you to be alleged of this at this point, at any point, it's absolutely insane. Perry Winfrey, you need to figure it out fast, or you will be on the next plane smoking out of Cleveland and potentially out of the NFL. I mean, you have no real game film to begin with in the league, so it's not like teams are going to be, scouring to try and sign you. So I just feel like Perry Winfrey, you're young, you do have a little bit of talent, but you are making awful decisions in your life, and sounds like you need some help because getting physical with your girlfriend, that's not it, man. That's not it at all. You should never get physical with any woman, especially if it's somebody you cared about and she's your girlfriend. So Perry-on Winfrey for me.
Come on, you gotta be kidding me.
Oh man. I think Major League Baseball should get a "you got to be kidding me" for handing Anthony Rendon a 4-game suspension.
That was actually pretty funny. I was
Are you
very
out
surprised
of
to see
your
that.
mind? He grabbed the fan by his shirt and took a swipe at him. That happened in the NBA. The guy be suspended for 50 games. Like,
Yeah.
why? Because he missed.
At least 12. At least 12.
Because he missed. Is that what? That's why. Like, I can't. Drives me nuts.
I literally told you that when I it's stupid as it sounds. I think him missing, like, it didn't go against him as much.
Fun episode this week. We will have an episode for you next Wednesday. Cottrell will not be here for that. Me and Bill are going to be pre-recording the episode Saturday and releasing it for you live Wednesday night. So if we're not commenting on what you're putting in the comments, we apologize. I will be in Mexico. My man Cottrell is going to be in
Punta Cana.
I was almost going to say the Dominican Republic, which I would have been right. I just wanted to make sure. But this is off week. It's basically our off season, but we still 131 straight weeks bring you a show every Wednesday, and we will figure out a way to bring you another one next Wednesday. So we have nor rain, nor sleet, nor shine. No matter what happens, Wire to Wire is always on time. So any final thoughts, gentlemen?
No, I got nothing this week.
I need to get out of this sauna. I'm like sweating bullets. Thank you. I'll be safe in Mexico. Oh, yeah, I always say this, and I'll leave you guys with a funny story. I'm a really bad target. Like, everyone's like, oh, be safe, be safe. Like, I'm not the guy they want to lug around and pick up and drag. Like, I'm a bad target. They don't look for fat white guys with beards. They're just like, that's not like number one on their agenda.
You're a lot of work.
Exactly. I have a lot of work.
I'm sure you fit the bill for somebody though. So
what?
I'm sure you fit the bill for somebody.
You made a couple odd comments at me.
We can make some money off this guy.
Yeah, you made a couple odd comments at me the last few days. Sunday, you told me how ugly I was. I remember that. That was a nice, very nice Easter telling me how ugly I was. And then today, you tell me you don't like me on certain days of the week. And now you're trying to plan an attack out against me in Mexico? Like, is Cottrell gone heel?
Might be. Full heel turn.
Episode 133 of Wire2Wire Sports Podcast, and you will find out.
Full heel turns are usually exciting now. They're usually fun.
Just for fun, because we have 5 minutes. Happy anniversary, Cottrell. I thank you, Tiny. I didn't realize. Oh, it is. Yeah, this weekend.
Sunday.
Happy anniversary.
That's what will be my extra. But just off the top of your head, who's the greatest heel turn ever? Greatest heel turn.
For me, because I was growing up in it and I was loving it. Randy Orton in 2009 was absolutely incredible.
Randy Orton's one of the best heels of all time. I don't think he gets enough credit. Biggest heel turn for me, that's easy. When Shawn Michaels super kicked Marty Jannetty through the glass in the
that's a great one. And Bruce the Barber Beefcake Shop.
Yeah, number one for me. Still gets me in my feelings.
Great one. Paul Bearer turns on the Undertaker. We got a couple comments. I don't think that
also, because of, again,
what about Hogan? Bro, when he turned his back on the Hulkamaniacs and began, listen, nobody likes Hogan, and he was very easy to hate. Like, I hate Hogan, shitty person.
My other one,
not a good human being, but I mean, Hogan's thing was very. I don't want to say like predictable the way he did it, but like everybody knew when he was leaving that like something like that was going to go down. Like, it wasn't just going to be like some like smooth exit transition type thing. So I think a lot of people kind of knew something was going to happen there.
My other one, just real quick here, when again showing my age here, but during my era, Batista turning heel on Evolution, giving Triple H the thumbs down, and attacking Evolution, signing the contract to fight Triple H at WrestleMania. That was another great heel turn for me as well.
Thank you, Tiny. I will enjoy Mexico, but no tequila for me. I am not drinking. I'm going to do a completely sober trip to Mexico. But thank you guys for tuning in to Wire2Wire Sports Podcast, episode 131. And we are signing